Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back in detail on Three of Amagami Sister, chapter number 183. This chapter is titled 183rd Knot, Tying Disguise Together, Origin. And I legitimately did not know how I would start this video for the main fact of, this is probably the most important chapter that will ever come out of this series right here. And that is because this series has two major plot twists in it, or I should say this chapter reveals two of these major plot twists, one of which I have been calling for nearly the entirety of the time I've been reading this series. It is one that I've thought is really obvious, and now that we have it confirmed, it's like, okay, it's exactly what I expected. Like, it's nothing out of the ordinary, and it's also like nothing completely buck wild or random or anything like that. And the other one is maybe one of the most shocking plot twists I've literally ever read in a manga. And I know that's pretty shocking, being that I've read a good amount of manga, and with that, a good amount of plot twists. But I don't know how this harem manga about 3 shrine maidens and a guy getting into med school at Kyoto University somehow has made me sit down and think about this plot twist in the past hour since I read this chapter. It's honestly so incredible that I even had to go to the Reddit thread to sit down and just read it to be like, oh my gosh, how did everybody react to this? What is everybody thinking? And honestly, I just want to talk about this chapter because it is just so shocking in every single way, as we just understand, as the chapter title even says, what the origin of this entire series really is. And hey, I just think that's a pretty cool thing. But of course, we're going to talk about this chapter 183. We first need to talk about what happened last time in chapter number 182. And it was a very simple chapter, like, hey, Yomiko came to the amusement park with Uryu and all the other girls, and of course all the other girls' friends. And in the process of that, we had this bigger idea where Uryu is trying to squeeze all of this information out of Yomiko because he thinks like, hey, she may be the only person who really has a good idea what is going on with me, and I'm in the point where I need to make a decision, and thus I probably should know all of the external information that's really going in with all of this, right? And because of that, eventually him and Yomiko ended up getting on a Ferris wheel, and as they were going around, Uryu was just acting like, hey, what is all this going on? Like, can you explain this all to me? And the very end of last chapter was Yomiko very simply explained to Uryu, like, hey, you are the cause for everything going on. And it's not a god's doing in the slightest, Uryu. It is just you. And this is like a really shocking reveal. It's like, hey, Uryu, it is all you're doing. And we really start off this chapter in the same exact spot as Uryu is sort of like sitting in the Ferris wheel for everybody. And he's like, wait a second, like, Yomiko, are you telling me that all the weird things that have happened to you weren't caused by the gods, but by me instead? He's like, but like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, what does that even mean? And in the moment, we start to hear the door on the Ferris wheel clank open as we see somebody appears just standing in the doorway. And of course, it is none other than a person wearing a shrine maiden's clothing and of course, a fox mask. As we see this person just is like, oh, it doesn't make much sense, does it? So to make it a little easier for you to understand, I'll try to explain it myself. And of course, Uryu looks over to the door and is like, wait a second, like, and now I'm even more confused, like, who are you? How could you just get there all in the moment, right? And of course, in the same vein, we have this little bit of an idea where, like, okay, they're on the Ferris wheel, and it's not like other people can't see the Ferris wheel from where they currently are. So all the other girls, Yahe, Yuna, and Asi, are all sort of on the ground, of course, also looking for where Uryu and Yomiko went, and sort of look up to the sky like, wait a second, like, did you guys just, like, see some person, like, standing on the edge of a Ferris wheel cart? And they're all like, yeah, I saw it too. Like, are we seeing, like, ghosts or something like that? Like, is this place haunted? Like, I don't want to be here anymore, right? And as they're discussing all of this, we now cut back up to the Ferris wheel cart itself, right? Where we see that this god has sat down beside her. I guess I sort of spoiled it there. Who would have thought this is a god? We almost have known that the entire series, right? But this person sits down beside Yomiko and just is like, oh my gosh, like, I'm nervous. It's almost like we're speed dating now, right? Like, hey, how about I don't start off things with an introduction, right? As this lady in the Fox Max just says like, hey, hi there, I'm a god. And Uryu's like, I mean, despite your appearance, I'd say you're honestly a pretty flaky god. And she's like, haha, you're pretty Spartan, right? She's like, hey, either way, it is very rude to say to a god's face, right? As I really find it funny how Uryu doesn't even question this at this point. He's just like, okay, I seem to get like the person to Fox Mask, like you were obviously like a god, but like Yomiko, like what is actually up with you here in the moment? Like who are you really? And Yomiko's like, okay, I can see definitely why you'd wonder that, but here's the thing, I am just a regular living person, right? And like, hey, I'm actually an agent of this particular god, and because of that, I was given a portion of her power. And she's like, that's really it. That's how I know all this stuff, and that is how I am able to know everything that you've been asking, Uryu, right? And Uryu's like, okay then, like, I guess that makes sense, but like, one thing's for sure, you're both totally out of touch with reality. And he's like, hey, so whenever Yomiko-san said in the past that I was the cause of all this paranormal stuff, what exactly did she mean by that? And like, hey, see, I was under the impression that all of you guys were manipulating me and that you were forcing me to make choices that what you guys wanted me to align with. And like, no matter what I did, my prophetic dreams would still exactly come true, exactly how I dreamed them before, right? And Ryu's like, hey, so like, but if it had been your fault, I'd be a little more satisfied with a little grumbling. But I'm just super confused at the end of the day. As the Fox Mask God just is like, oh, well, she's right. I didn't do this. This is a story that begins with you. As the Fox Mask God just simply sits here and snaps her fingers. I would try to snap my fingers, but I legitimately do not know how to do that, right? But as the Fox Mask God snaps fingers, they just say like, hey, after all, the common thread in the past, the present, and the future, and even in the branch worlds, are connections and destinies that you have woven. As of course we get this whole idea of this red rope, this red string almost of fate sort of like going around here in the moment and tying together Uryu with all of the memories that he's made of all the girls here that we have seen throughout the entire series. As we see that Uryu and of course Yomiko and the Fox Mask God are almost brought into like this liminal space, like this almost eternal sky around them. And it's really funny as Uryu just sees all of these pictures, of course, panels from the manga as we know, just sitting here showing every single spot as it sort of like branches around in almost all of the totality around him, right? And Uryu like looks around like, oh my gosh, like what is this going on here? As I really love how the Fox Mask God is like, oh hey, it's perfect sense, right? Pictures are worth 1,000 words. And these that you are seeing are all of the connections that are woven around you. And you are in a state that transcends time and possibility itself, which connects your consciousness to each and every possible destiny. And Uryu's like, okay, I don't get this really, like, you're telling me my consciousness transcends like the past and the future? And the Fox Mask God is like, well, yes, but your connection across time is something that you can only feel a little bit. And he's like, hey, for example, the prophetic dreams that you often have, those are a connection you'll make in the future, washing over you in the present. And it's not just like you seeing all of these things. I'm sure that your consciousness has taken you both to the past and into the future as well. Of course, is these whole ideas like whenever Uryu went to the past during the initial Yahei arc, and of course in the moment during Asuhi's second arc, the whole idea wherever he saw the future that was woven between them, and how Asuhi ended up failing at the very end of the day, right? And Uryu is just sort of sitting here and like, but that, like, I'm still don't understand any of this, right? And Yomiko just is like, hey, that also reminds me, when the Dark God tied your destiny to that of another possible world, you often wondered why you still had your memories of this world you're currently in. And if I'm not mistaken, that's what you asked me there, wasn't it? And she says like, hey, well, as this god here just explained, it was because your consciousness that was also linked to that other possible world. Like, hey, do you understand how special your existence is now, Uryu? And Uryu is sort of just like sitting here, like very nervous. Like, of course, his hands are in together in his lap, and he's just like sitting here. And he's like, I'm sorry, like, is this what you would call easy to understand? And he's like, hey, I don't get this at all. It would have just been much simpler to like say a god did it or something else. But like, it was me, a regular human, and not some god at all. Like, how did all this supernatural stuff even start? I still don't understand it. As we see the Fox Mask God reaches up to, of course, their mask and starts to pull it off their face. As I don't know for sure, like we never get confirmed if Uryu actually ever sees the mask of, or the actual face of this fox god. But as all of this happens, as the fox god's like pulling the mask off, they just say like, hey, I believe that you already know the reason deep within your own heart. And Uryu's like, look, what do you mean, right? As the god just says, the reason you are linked to every destiny is because you are attempting to fulfill a certain wish of yours. And Uryu's like, a wish? Like, what wish are you talking about? As of course, here in the moment, all of the images in the moment that are worth 1,000 words are floating around the scene, and one of them happens just to blow in front of Uryu's face. And it's actually a few of them, as the ones that appear are Uryu just sitting there thinking like, hey, from the very beginning there was only one choice, and like, hey, will you all listen to my answer of who I'm going to pick? As Uryu finally puts all of the puzzle pieces together. And he's like, oh, I get it now, like, that's why. All of these feelings inside of me, the answer I'll give them, that is my wish. And so to make that wish come true, I linked every single thread of destiny. And those threads of destiny pulled me across time and possibility and into the strange event after other strange event. All stemming from this one moment. It all began when those threads wove themselves together, when we tied the knot. As here in the moment, we just get all of these images. Of course, all of the initial 3 arcs with the girls, of course, whenever Uryu went back to Yahei's past, or whenever him and Asi repeated Sabantha all times on end, and of course, whenever him and Yuna swapped bodies. And whenever the first instance of these prophetic dreams happened, when Uryu fell off the stairs whenever he was looking for Yahei in chapter 5. As here we get an image of Uryu's initial moment tying the knot with one of the Amagami sisters. And it's not 3, it's not like all of them together. It's just one singular one. And I will be talking about all of this in a second, but we really don't have too much else, many other pages in the chapter, so like, let's just go ahead and talk about that, and then we can talk about what this really means for this entire series. As finally Uryu is sort of like broken out of this funk, as finally the Ferris wheel ride comes all the way to the bottom, and it's time for him and Yomiko to get off the ride, and oh, there's no fox mask god to be seen whatsoever. The attendant's like, alright guys, please watch your step as you disembark, and Uryu and Yomiko sort of walk off the ride. And Yomiko's like, oh, so Uryu, like, how do you feel? Like, were you able to make that connection inside yourself? And Uryu's like, it is a little bit hazy for me if I'm going to be honest with you. All of this gods and destiny and wishes stuff, like, it all defies logic. But what I have to do now is very clear to me. And of course Yomiko's, okay, that is very good. As here in the moment we hear Yuna's voice just yell like, oh, hey, there you are, right? As of course all of the other 6 characters here at the amusement park, the 3 girls and the 3 best friends, all walk up to both where Uryu and Yomiko are. And it's just told you like, hey, where have you guys been? Like, very suspicious, the 2 of you disappearing together, right? And Uryu just was like, hey, I'm sorry, like, it's my bad. We wanted to take a break. And anyway, is there anything else that, like, you guys want to do fun around here? And like, hey, I'm ready to go all out and have a blast now, right? And all the girls are like, oh, come on, like, you're excited now. Like, hey, do you want to go ride the merry-go-round around with me? Like, hey, no fair, like, don't skip in line. And they're all just talking about all this various stuff. As we look up to the Ferris wheel, where, of course, the god is still sitting there. And as the god is sitting there, we see that they officially take off their fox mask as we see their face for the very first time. As we cut up to them, as we see that none other than Chiharu Amagami is sitting there taking off the fox mask, as she just says, oh, good luck, Uryu Amagami-kun, and may your wish come true. As we end off the chapter with Uryu leading the 3 Amagami Shrine girls around the amusement park, and we just see the red string of fate running throughout in the moment. And that is where we end this chapter number 183 of Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister. And I know a few minutes ago that I said that this was probably the biggest plot twist I've ever read in any anime or manga ever seen, and maybe even any work of fiction ever. And on one hand, let's get to the very obvious reveal and twist here, like, yes, the fox mask god is Chiharu. Like, I think all of us saw that coming from at least some point in time. I really can't tell you whenever I first started to put 2 and 2 together, but it was honestly probably during whenever I watched the first season of the anime, whenever I first experienced this series. I'm like, okay, it is very obviously Chiharu. Like, if you look at how the hair looks, if you look that they're wearing the same Amagami shrine robe, like, there is no question about who really it is here at the moment. And on one hand, it's really cool that we get this reveal here, and also, it's a really nice thing wherever Chiharu just is like, oh, like, hey, good luck, Uryu Amagami, like, it's just a really cool thing. It's like, she knows everything that's going on here, so it really works out here at the end of the day. But of course, the bigger plot reveal here and the bigger twist that I've been going on about for the past, like, 15 minutes or something about like that, is the whole idea that the entire series that we have read thus far is really an alternate timeline from the original where Uryu had the same exact thing happening. And of course, we understand this by this whole idea of Uryu originally tied the knot, presumably with one of the Amagami sisters. And in doing that, he picked one of them. I hope it was Yuna. We really don't understand who that really was, but this was in like the original canon timeline. And as time has gone on, while Uryu was living in that life, he subconsciously thought about how he made the wrong decision, because of course, in marrying one of the sisters, there were two others that he didn't get to make happy like he wanted to, and of course that is his ultimate wish, is to make all three of them as happy as they can always be. Which means that all of the prophetic dreams that Uryu has also been seeing throughout this entire series is nothing more than just the view and the outlook that the Uryu had in a previous life coming true in this one once again, something that he cannot avoid, to simply get to this timeline of where he can make all three of them happy. And of course, like in the original timeline where he had to move into the shrine, marry one of the sisters that end up going to Kyoto University, like all of that happened as it was, but without the supernatural elements, which also leads to the whole idea that he went back in time pretty much and has had the chance to start it all over to get his final wish that he wanted since the original timeline. And I know, like, that doesn't make so much sense, and I don't know how well I'm really describing it, but it's just a really funny thing to sit down and think about, to be like, oh yeah, Uryu has relived this life once already, and he's now going through it again with the end goal of marrying 3 people instead of 1. Like, it's honestly just a really funny thing, and the whole idea of, like, hey, all of the images and panels that we see on the first 2-page spread of this chapter, the whole idea of, like, hey, pictures are worth 1,000 words, and, like, you are trying to force all of these possibilities into one timeline, and all of these, like, streams of, like, fate are coming together to make that work because of your strong will, pretty much, Uryu. You are not a god, but because of this, you are sort of acting as one and controlling your destiny in this way. And of course, with that, we have the whole idea of, like, yes, Chiharu is a god herself, and like I'm even pretty sure it was explained earlier in this series, maybe during Yahei's arc or something around there, that whenever you die in the Shinto religion, they often believe that you do become a god. So of course, like, hey, it makes sense for Chiharu to be that. And being that Yomiko was Chiharu's, like, protege pretty much, it also makes sense that Yomiko would get a power, like a little bit of a boost of that god's power pretty much, to then be able to use herself. And it sort of makes sense that she is also the one training the Amagami girls. So, like, it all really works out together, and I honestly can't find a massive flaw here with any of it. And really, it's just Uryu's will to fulfill his wish of marrying all 3 girls is so strong that he has changed timelines to make that happen. And honestly, I think that's a pretty cool plot twist, and honestly, a really good and a really fun one. But of course, now we have the question, how is Uryu actually going to fulfill this wish? And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is probably the last chapter of volume 21, if I'm not mistaken. It may not be. Let me actually go to the Amagami Sister wiki real quick and go to media. We'll go to the manga and try to look at the volumes and chapters sort of list. I know I'm sort of just trying to stall here, but that's how this goes whenever I go through and do this, right? No, actually, we have 2 more chapters in volume 21, so my bad there. But we are really getting to the main point of Uryu is about to have to make his decision of how this is going to work. And is it going to involve timeline manipulation, or is it going to involve, like, him just, like, simply just marrying 3 of them? Like, honestly, I really have no idea. I've not read any of the more recent chapters. I'm pretty sure, what is the most recent chapter even out at the portion, or at the time I'm recording this video? I think it is 192 if I'm not mistaken, so I still have a time to go to get caught back up. About 9 more, no, what's that? It's about 10 more chapters before I'm caught back up right there. So, really, I don't have too much else to say about this. Again, this is just one of those chapters of all time that has such this big reveal and this big moment to be like, oh yeah, Uryu's will is so strong that he has changed timelines. And also the whole idea of like, where does the Dark God fit into this whenever Shirahi's whole stuff happened, and maybe trying to tell Uryu like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, and like I'm trying to mess up how you're breaking the timeline, but Uryu's will to marry 3 girls is too strong to where it just like overrules another god's power. Like, who is Uryu? Why does he have this ability, right? But either way, just a really fun chapter we got here this week. And yeah, this has been 3 days in a row of Amagami Sister videos, and hopefully I'll make it tomorrow for day 4 of this series, right? But again, with all that out of the way, thank you guys so very much for watching this video on tying off an Amagami Sister chapter number 183. Again, this chapter was titled Tying the Skies Together, Origins. And of course, we learned the origins of sort of, I'm going to say Uryu's power here. I don't think that's like the best way to put it, or really just the origin of, yeah, this is how the timeline that you are living in currently works. It's not the original because you tied the knot in the original and realized you weren't happy as you could be there, so you changed all of the various things up, I guess is sort of what we're going for, right? But with all of that out of the way, if you guys did enjoy this video, I've covered this series plenty of other times here on the YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure this is, what, the 8th video in this series that I've done, so if you want to hear my thoughts on the previous 7 chapters, really since the beginning of the Tying the Skies Together arc, well, very luckily for you guys, I have the exact YouTube playlist for you guys to go check out. It'll be linked down in the description box of this video and also on the end card of this video as well. And hey, if you did enjoy this, I cover plenty of other anime and manga related content. Not really too much else that runs in Weekly Shonen Magazine, at least at this point, mainly stuff that runs in Shonen Jump just because it is much easier for me to access and be able to make thumbnails out of and do all of that stuff compared to K-Manga. K-Manga, why do you have to do all this to me? Kodansha, just like make a better app, you know what I'm saying? But if you do want to check any of that out, just go to @Glowplasma on YouTube and check out all of the content there. And if you did enjoy this video, hopefully you'll mind subscribing. It's the little thing that helps boost my ego and also lets me know if you guys are enjoying the content or if I need to change it up. I honestly think I'm going to have to find another location to record in because this is the second time I'm recording in my new college dorm, and I think it's just a little bit too echoey in here. There's a lot of other things that make loud noises in here that I typically can't control. Like in my old dorm room, I could turn off the AC unit whenever I wanted to, so I could have no sound in the room, right? And also, I now have a fridge that makes this really annoying noise every time the compressor is kicked on, so I may have to go find somewhere else to record on campus, maybe like a library study room I can sit down and talk about manga or something. But yeah, if you guys do have any suggestions about like maybe where I could go, like a quiet place on a college campus where I wouldn't bother people, maybe I'd be happy to hear you out there. But yeah, I really don't have too much to say. I will catch you guys hopefully tomorrow, or at least at some point for the video on Tying the Knot for Amagami Sister chapter number 184. Again, this was chapter number 183, titled Tying the Skies Together, Origin. And yeah, I will catch you guys next time. This will be Glowplasma signing out. Yuna, you better have been the one he married in the original timeline. I'm not kidding you. You're best girl, so just like make all of my dreams happy. All right, I'll catch you guys next time.